let's see together something about layers. Layers are here in the right tab, and together with channels and path, these three tabs are kind of linked together, but we're going to see other two later on. Now, let's go back to layers. How to create a new layer. You can click on this button here, or you can press Ctrl Shift N and you get this pop-up where you can write the name of the layer and use the previous one as a clipping mask, etc. But we're going to see this stuff later on. But anyway, don't worry if you just press OK, because you can then have the same options basically here and with right clicking on the layer itself. So don't worry if you miss something there. Now, layers. What can we do with layers? First of all, we can rename them if we double click on the name, and it's a good habit to rename your layers, because then, you know, if you give someone else your PSD or you open your own file like a week later, you know exactly what to expect just by reading the names on the layers. Okay, and this is very, very important. Now, you know, you can, now I will paint some color in this layer, and if you see here, there is a hide, so we can hide or view again this layer just by clicking on the eye. Now, differently from other softwares in Photoshop, when you hide something, then it's hide it. So if you save the image, this is not going to be revealed. Okay, so be careful about what you hide or what you show. Now, how to select more than you know, just one layer. If you want to select a layer, you just click in this part of it. If you want to select more layers, you can press Ctrl if you want to select non-consecutive layers. But if you want to select them all like in a straight line, you can press Shift and all those layers are going to be selected, and then you can do something. How to delete a layer. If you want to delete a layer, you can just click on this button here on the bin, or you know, you can right click delete layer, or you can just press cancel on the keyboard. Now, if you want to move a layer, you can just drag and drop the layer where you want, and as you can see, you will get a blue line that will preview where the layer is gonna be when you release the mouse button. And of course, you know, sometimes you can make a mistake, but don't worry, you can just, you know, go back and move the layer again. Now, sometimes you want to merge together some layers, and as you can see here, what we have is the starting photo. Then we have another photo I, you know, put on top with a mask, and then an adjustment layer. An adjustment layer is just, you know, a special layer that will modify what's behind. And in this particular, you know, case, I want a new layer with everything merged together. Now, if you want to merge everything together, you have different choices. The first choice is to select everything you want to merge together and press Ctrl-Alt-E on the keyboard. Ctrl-Alt-E. And then you have a new layer, which is the result of the layer you have selected merged together. Another way is to go on top. So you need to go on the top layer, in this case, this adjustment, and press Ctrl-Alt-Shift-E, and this will basically create a new layer with everything visible in it. Okay, so if something is not visible, is not going to be in this next layer, and if you press Ctrl-Alt-Shift-E, once you are in an invisible layer, nothing happens. So you need to be sure that you have to be in a visible layer to use Ctrl-Alt-Shift-E, and then it's going to work. Okay, and as you can see in this merged layer, there's no adjustment here. Okay, because it was hidden. Now let's go back to default. Here we go. Another way to merge is to just press Ctrl-E, but that, you know, is kind of sometimes you don't do it because it basically merged the actual layer, the selected layer, with what's behind it. Okay, so if I press Ctrl-E, as you can see, now I merged the adjustment layer with the previous one, with the photo. And this is not a good habit. This is not something we do. And the reason is, in Photoshop, you want to keep control of everything you can. And if you have an adjustment, I don't know, you want to keep the adjustment. You don't want to delete the adjustment. And because maybe you made a mistake and you want to go back and modify a little bit the adjustment, and that's it. And then you have the perfect image. So that's why we select the layer, the adjustment together, and we press Ctrl Alt E if you want to have a copy of this with the adjustment applied. So you have this could be hide it as a backup. This is your backup, and then this is your new file. And if you made a mistake, you just delete this one, and then you go back with the backup, and you keep moving this curve, for example. Now, sometimes you want to lock some layers. For example, when you start a new file, the first layer here is always locked, and there is different types of lock. Now, if you see something like this with the lock on the right, you can just click on the lock to unlock it, or you can double click, and in some version it works. In some version of Photoshop, you need to double click in here to unlock, and press OK to unlock the layer. Now in this version, I can just click in here, and you can see here different types of lock. There is the lock for the alpha, for the transparent pixel. I mean, this is the lock for the painting, so you are not allowed to paint on this layer, but you can still move it around. This is the lock for the movement, so you can paint but don't move it around. This is about artboards, and we don't have artboards here. Basically it's a way to lock your artboards, and this is the total lock. So is the thing that you are not allowed to do anything on that layer. So if you want to be sure that nobody touch it, not even you can just lock a layer, and that's it. There's nobody's gonna touch it. Okay. Another thing here is the search. Now we have just 3 layers, so the search is not really useful, but in case you have 500 layers and you want to find, like, I don't know, a type of layer, or I don't know, all the text layers or all the adjustment layers, you can just click in here, and you will see only the adjustments. And with this drop down menu, you basically set kind of research. So you want to search for like the kind of layer, the name of the layer. So you can write here, I don't know, LA, and you will find all the layers with LA inside, and so on. So you can search for colors, for if you want smart object, if you want I don't know, maybe you want all the layers in blend mode. You click on mode, and then here you search the blend mode you want to change, you want to isolate. This is pretty cool. This is pretty useful if you have a very large file and you want to go exactly for that kind of component. Now, if you want to, like in this example, if you want a layer to modify just one of the other layers, you may want to attach that layer to the previous one. Now, how can we attach a layer? We can attach a layer by pressing Alt and going in the middle of the 2 layers and clicking with the left mouse button. If I do this again, it will detach, I would say, this adjustment, and now this adjustment is working on the whole file, so everything below it. But because I want this adjustment just to work on this layer, I press Alt and I click with the mouse button once, and now these layer here, these adjustment, these curves are working only on this road I have here. And you can tell because if I move this, only that part is basically changing. And this is pretty powerful because normally what happens is you have here a layer with a mask, and you want to apply something only in this area. Now we're going to see mask in the next video, but if I I want to paint something down there, maybe I can just, select the color, and I select the brush and make it like very, very smooth. I squeeze it a little bit like this. And then if I paint now, as you can see, this layer is attached to the previous one, and so is using these mask as a mask. So if I paint here, you see, is not going out of this white area because is attached to this layer. And this is pretty powerful because then we are free to do a bunch of new things. Maybe, I don't know, I want to have just a little bit of I don't know, different color in this area. I can have I don't know, like a dark brown layer here, and I painted and I changed the blending mode, and as you can see, it's working only on that layer. And this is pretty powerful. This is pretty powerful because the main thing is you don't have to make the same mask over and over again. Okay. Now another thing we have in layers is the opacity. Opacity, it's here, and it's just the amount of transparency of that layer. So if you have 100%, that layer is 100% visible. If you have 50%, then that layer is 50% visible. And that's it. It's not more than that. The fill thing is different because the opacity will basically act on the whole layer, even if the layer are have some layer adjustment, layer styles, I would say. So here we have layer styles. And for example, a layer style is a style that you apply on top of the layer, like for example, I don't know, a stroke. See, the stroke is like a border. See, so if I have a border here, now this is not really cool. It's not really what I want to do, but it's just a way for me to explain you what is the fill. And here you have the fill opacity. So basically the fill opacity, if you go down, only the content of the layer is going to disappear, but the layer styles will still be visible. And sometimes it's very useful because, I don't know, you want to create like a shadow and you want just to see the shadow, not the content that create the shadow, or glow, or something like the stuff like that, I would say. And of course I press cancel and I get back to my file. So remember, opacity is the whole thing. Opacity will affect also layer styles. Fill will affect only the content of the layer, not the layer styles. Now here we have blending modes. We are going to see blending modes in details in one of the next videos because it's a pretty important topic. And just for you to know, a blending mode is a way to blend pixels between one layer and what's behind, what's at the bottom of it. And each blending mode will give you a different result. Now sometimes they are good results, sometimes they are not good, and you need to know exactly what every blending mode does in order to understand if you can use it or not. But anyway, sometimes you don't have to be afraid of trying them all, because you never know what surprise Photoshop have for you. Maybe you don't expect some result and you feel like they're good and you want to keep them, even if they are just happening by randomly, I would say. And if you have problems at viewing and understanding what's inside a layer, you can go here in this small button on top. So basically they are options, and you can scroll down until you see panel option here, and then you can change the size of the thumbnail with the big one, and you can press OK, and now these thumbnails are way bigger than before. Now, one thing I just recommend you to do here, this tool here is the move tool. So of course is the tool that you use to move stuff around. Uncheck both auto select and show transform control. First of all, auto select is not cool for me, because I want to choose from here, from the layers, the layer I want to work with. But if you have auto select and you click outside, the bounding box, I would say, of this layer, then you are going to select automatically, the other ones. And this is kind of frustrating sometimes, because, I'm always kind of, I know what I want to move. I know what I want to work on. I don't want the software to work for me, to pick something for me. So I uncheck this, and of course now if I move, you see, if I click even outside the bounding box of this, I'm going to move only this layer and not the bottom one. And another thing I uncheck is the show transform control, and the reason is, every time I select a layer, I don't want to have transform controls. Maybe I don't want to move it. Maybe I don't want to rotate it. Maybe I don't want to, scale it. I just want to select the layer. And so if I want transform control, I press just Control T and I get them only when I want them, and that's it. Okay. So this is pretty cool, if you remember, because it will probably save you a lot of time and a lot of headache. If you want to duplicate a layer or more, you can select them and press Ctrl J on the keyboard, and then you can move them around. If you don't want to duplicate them in the same file, you can right click once you select them and click on duplicate layers, and then here you can choose another document. Now if you have another document open, you will find his name here, or you can click on new and press OK, and they will be merged into a new composition.